Jai Guruji. With Guruji's and Sukhmani Auntie's permission, I am going to narrate the book Surcharged with Divine Love, written by Sukhmani Auntie and published by Unistars Private Limited. Before I begin with the narration, I would like to share Guruji's divine ways of blessing his Sangat. मैंने ये बुक करीब 2 साल पहले पढ़ी थी and I just loved it. अभी 2-3 हफ्ते पहले अचानक से मंडे रात को मुझे बहुत स्ट्रॉन्ग थॉट आया कि मैं ये बुक फिर से पढूं और अपने मॉम डैड को सुनाऊं। जितनी बार मेरी रात को जाग खुली बस यही ख्याल रहा। सुबह उठते ही मैंने ये बुक ढूंढी एंड मॉम डैड को बिठाकर पढ़नी शुरू कर दी और मैंने कहा उनसे अब मैं रोज़ आधा घंटा ये पढ़ूंगी आपके लिए। उसी दिन शाम को गुरुजी के साथ बैठ के चाय पी रही थी और कुछ कुछ बातें जो पढ़ी थी इस बुक में से उनका ख्याल आने लगा। जैसे कि गुरुजी ने सुखमनी आंटी से कहा मेरा परिवार वापस आ गया और ये भी कहा कि हर कोई मुझे छू नहीं सकता। मैं बहुत इमोशनल हो गई मन ही मन। पहले तो सुखमनी आंटी के लिए बहुत सारा प्यार और दुआ निकली और फिर सोचा कि मैं तो गुरुजी को छूना दूर की बात है, मुझे तो शायद सुखमनी आंटी के भी दर्शन नसीब नहीं होंगे। उन्हीं को छू लूँ या उनसे बात कर लूँ, आई विल फील ब्लेस्ड। बस इतनी सी बात मेरे और मेरे गुरुजी के बीच में हुई। अगले दिन एक संगत अंकल ने मुझे मैसेज किया और कहा गुरुजी ने तुम्हें सेवा दी है सरचार्ज्ड विद डिवाइन लव नरेट करने की। हैरानी से मैंने उन्हें फ़ोन किया और उन्होंने कहा कि वो लॉज ऑफ द स्पिरिट वर्ल्ड की नरेशन सुन रहे थे कि उनको टेलीपैथी हुई और गुरुजी ने कहा कि रूपी से बोलो कि इस बुक की नरेशन करे और करने से पहले सुखमनी आंटी की परमिशन ले ले। आई वॉज ओवरवेल्म्ड विद इमोशंस कि कैसे गुरुजी ने पहले तो खुद ही मेरे मन में ये भाव डाला कि मैं ये पढ़ूं, अपने मॉम डैड को सुनाऊं, मुझे रेडी किया पढ़ने के लिए एंड फिर संगत अंकल को टेलीपैथी में बोला और मेरी झोली ब्लेसिंग से भर दी। कितना प्यार करते हैं गुरुजी, खुद ही सब कुछ कर देते हैं, हमें कुछ सोचने समझने की ज़रूरत ही नहीं पड़ती। थैंक यू गुरुजी फॉर ऑल योर लव। आई डोंट थिंक द वर्ड थैंक यू विल एवर जस्टिफाई हाउ मच यू लव योर संगत फैमिली। सुखमनी आंटी, आपका भी बहुत शुक्राना, पहले तो इस बुक को लिखने के लिए एंड अपनी खूबसूरत जर्नी के कुछ पल गुरुजी के साथ शेयर करने के लिए। And thank you for giving me permission to read this divine book full of blessings. मैं इस बुक को as it is word to word पढ़ूंगी. I hope I'm able to do justice to the emotions expressed through words and also I hope I can interpret the way you want it to be. कुछ गलती हो जाए तो प्लीज़ मुझे माफ़ करना. On this note, let us now close our eyes and walk the beautiful journey along with Sukhmani Auntie and Guruji. To Guruji, my spiritual master, I can never thank you enough for all that you have done for me. My grandfather, late Shri S.S. Gill, I miss you. My mother, lovingly called Sukhi Auntie by Guruji, I thank God for giving me the best mother anyone could ever have, and I thank you for showing me the right path. My father, late Shri Irinder Singh, who, as foretold by Guruji, became a bigger disciple than all of us in his last days. Dad, I will always love you. My sister Litlu and brother-in-law Atlee for their love and support. And my nephew Rajdeep and niece Pearl, you both light up my world. Introduction. Guru saman data nahi, याचक शीश समान, दीन लोक की संपदा, so Guru दीन ही दान, Kabir. There is no donor like a guru and no seeker like a disciple. Guru can grant all three worlds to his disciple. In 2003, Guruji had told me I would be writing a book. Surcharged with Divine Love, first edition, was written by me in 2011 and published in 2012 with his blessings and instructions. About a week before the book got printed, I saw Guruji in telepathy, where I see him bless the book and say to me, Sukhmani, मैं तेरी बुक नू ठप्पा ला देता. Sukhmani, I have stamped your book with my approval and blessings. In the morning, I got busy with some work and forgot about the telepathy when I suddenly heard his voice for the first time after his Mahasamadhi. सुखमनी, तू सुन नहीं रही है, मैं तेरी बुक नू ठप्पा ला देता. You're not listening to me. I have blessed your book and given it my stamp of approval. This book is truly blessed, and I believe that it will only reach those who genuinely seek guidance and at a time when you need it the most. Since I maintained diaries of everything he ever said to me, I was able to reproduce his vachans exactly as they were said to me. I have not added or changed anything. Through this book, I have tried to give a true perspective of Guruji's life, philosophy, and teachings to all those who were fortunate enough to meet him in his physical form, as well as those who have joined his Sangat after his Mahasamadhi. The main objective of the book was and always will be to highlight Guruji's teachings. There was a lesson in every conversation he had with us. Everything he said, even if in a joke, had a hidden meaning behind it. One just had to read between the lines to get it. He practically did things that others preached. I believe miracles do happen, and the miracles of all miracles happened to me the day I met my Guru. This book is written with the sole purpose to give a clear insight into Guruji's life and teachings through our experiences and conversations with him. After the first edition came out, I was inundated with requests to write another book. It's very easy to write a number of books on Guruji as his blessings are endless and one can just go on and on. I do not wish to preach, nor do I wish to add a string of books to my name. The demand for the book in print was reaching me, and therefore I decided to come up with a revised edition. I have added a few new chapters and updated the contents. This book has more of our personal experiences with Guruji, and again, I would like to stress on the point that we do not wish to glorify ourselves. The only one who is worthy of glorification is my Guru. It is a humble request to all those who read this book that if this book helps you in getting clarity or has helped answer any of your questions, then please do send a dua my way, as that is all I seek in return. With love, Sukhmani. Chapter 1. His presence was felt even before meeting him. I was hardly 4 years old when I started talking about snakes and how they came and danced with me and played with me almost every night. I remember the first time I told my mother that I see snakes with small bells tied to their tails and that they come and dance with me. She laughed it off and put it down to the crazy imagination of a 4-year-old. The second time was different though. I got a tight slap across my face. I was lectured on how it is a bad thing to lie and make things up, and the importance of speaking the truth. I thought grown-ups were a rather strange lot, and even though I kept seeing the snakes for a long time after that, I never said a word. It was my 10th class farewell, and having studied in a convent, the sisters held a prayer meeting before the party. We were all given a rosebud each, around which was wrapped a piece of paper. We were told that Jesus Christ himself had sent us all a message regarding our future. I believed the convent sisters were a strange lot too. I tried to look pleased when I went up to the principal to collect my message. All my friends seemed happy on reading theirs. Some were told they would reach great heights. Some were predicted to find money. Some were told they would find true love. I was very disappointed on reading mine. It said, "Blessed are the pure at heart, for they shall see God." I told Christ I would have been happier had he sent me some of the other stuff too. Little did I know that within a few years I would actually meet God in the form of my Guru, and the other stuff would have absolutely no meaning thereafter. It was late at night and I switched off the bedside light to go off to sleep. I tried to relax and tell myself that what had happened the night before was probably just my imagination. I have always had pictures of Guru Gobind Singh Ji and Baba Sri Chand Ji in my room. That night, I sent out a silent prayer to both of them to protect me. Scared and in anticipation, I waited for it to happen again. I waited an hour or so, and just as I was about to fall asleep, it happened. I felt someone come into my room and sit on my bed. The bed shook, and I heard and felt the mattress sink. I quickly reached out to put on the bedside light, but there was no one. I sat up all night trying to make sense of it all. This happened every night till the day I met Guruji. Over a period of time, I stopped fearing the presence in the room. In fact, I felt safe and protected. I soon realized that my bedside table, that was constantly full of medicines, had now become empty as I was enjoying good health. Many years later, Guruji asked me of this presence in my room and told me that it was he himself who used to come, sit on my bed, and watch over me. As a child, I remember a lot of saints and holy souls visiting my mother's side of the family. Some even stayed at the house for many days. I remember Bibaji, an old spiritual lady who visited often. Her mouth used to be closed, and even then one could hear her do prayers. When my mother got married, she gave her a certain prayer to be done all through her life, but my mother forgot about it, only to be reminded many years later by another saintly soul. She protected the family for many years and would always forewarn my mother of any oncoming danger. Once in Mumbai, she came in her dream many years after physically passing away and told mom not to go out the next day or else she would be very sick. My mother ignored the warning and went out. There she ate something that gave her a severe allergy and she had to be rushed to Breach Candy Hospital. There were several such incidents where we have been warned by these saintly souls much in advance. My grandfather was often guided and protected by Kali Kamaliwale Sant Maharaj Ji, who would often just appear and guide or warn Nanaji before a certain incident actually took place. Before coming in touch with Guruji, we were following another saintly soul who we called Sant Maharaj Ji. The first time we met him, he mentioned the part given to my mother by Bibaji and asked if she had ever done it. Of course, mom had forgotten all about it, and he mentioned that had she done the part given by Bibaji, she wouldn't have had to face the kind of problems she was facing at the time. We later found out that he too visited Guruji often. He was the one who finally guided us towards Guruji in 1992. Ever since childhood, I have felt a protection around me and my family. Many times we have escaped death and severe accidents by merely a few seconds. My life too seemed to be guided by an unknown force that had a plan of its own. In retrospect, I realize now that our family was constantly guided and protected by Guruji through these highly spiritual souls till the time he could physically enter our lives. The day we first met Guruji, he welcomed us by saying, "Sada Pariwar वापस आ गया." My family has finally come back to me. This was the beginning of a beautiful journey with Guruji. Chapter 2, Meeting the Guru Who Changed Destinies. Where are we going? I asked my mother, hoping it wasn't another trip to some saint or some religious place. Being a very pious and a spiritual person, my mother loved taking such trips, and my sister and I always got tagged along. Although I never saw my sister protest, I wasn't too keen on visiting any more saints. I had met too many, and each one had something or the other to say to me. You must pray more, your stars are bad, or your future life is not going to be a very happy one. And one even told me that my birth chart wasn't even worth reading since there wasn't a single good thing in it. Having heard such negative things about my life endless number of times from endless number of saints and soothsayers, I wasn't ready to hear it one more time. We are going to meet Guruji in Jalandhar. I've heard he is very powerful and can change a person's destiny. I couldn't believe my mother had fallen for this one. Change a person's destiny? That's a new one. Mom gave me one of her looks that told me that my not going wasn't an option. Soon, along with my mother, grandfather, and my sister, I was on my way to meet the great Guruji who changed destinies. We reached the temple in Jalandhar at about 11 a.m. and were told that it was closed for the day as Guruji was resting. As soon as we were told this, word came from Guruji that we should be permitted to come in. We were made to sit in the temple and were offered tea. Guruji walked in soon after and asked us to sit next to him. How do I describe Guruji? I guess I can say he was bald and wore silk robes that seemed out of the world. But the truth is, even an ordinary person like me could see that there was something very different about him. His face had a glow of 1,000 bulbs. There was a fragrance around him that smelt divine. And his eyes seemed to pierce through a person's soul. He had the aura of a king and yet was as humble, kind, and loving like a father. I was speechless. Tera na ki hai? What is your name? He asked me. Sukhmani, I answered proudly, since I was very fond of my name. Bada changa na hai. It's a very nice name, he replied. Sant Maharaj Ji, the one who sent us to Guruji, was extremely good with astrology and had made birth charts for all of us. When my birth chart was read out to me, I was extremely disappointed and saddened. There was nothing that I liked about it, and I fell into a bit of a depression because of it. That day, Guruji asked me, "Kundli banwai hai apni?" Sun ke depression pੈ gaya. You have had your birth chart read, and on hearing the contents you have since been in depression? I was taken aback as to how he knew and laughed. Yes, Guruji, there wasn't a single thing in it that I liked. He smiled at me and said, चल फिर आज तो बाद में तेरी कुंडली बदल देती जा फिर तो बनवा के देख सब बदल देता Go, get your chart made again and see I have changed everything. At that moment, I couldn't comprehend as to how someone can change anyone's destiny and what's written is written. Not completely believing him and just to avoid arguing, I politely thanked him and refused to get my chart made again. He gave me a long look and told me about the health issues I had been facing since a few years. I couldn't believe that someone who had just met me briefly could tell me about my illnesses. I remember all the other saints I visited had to be told of the problems I was going through, but this was the first time I had met someone who already knew. He seemed to read me like a book. Guruji was like a magnet I could not pull away from. Even though I had a few questions, I didn't, however, have any doubts that I had finally come to the right place. I had come home. In the few hours that we spent with him that day, I felt so much of love and affection from him and for him that by the end of the day, I didn't want to go back home. We were told to come regularly for the next 15 days, and strangely, I looked forward to meeting him again. To the amusement of my family, I used to be the first one to get ready and waiting to be taken to Guruji. The next day, when we entered the temple, Guruji suddenly looked at my mother and said, "Tu Karminder Kaur di beti hai? You're Karminder Kaur's daughter?" No one could have possibly told him my grandmother's name. "Tenu pata hai, tu mere kol 70 saal di tapasya baad aayi hai. Do you know you have come back to me after 70 years of meditation?" My mother was only 43 at that time, which only meant he was talking about her previous lifetime. He said that my mother was his elder sister in his past 2 lifetimes. She was elder to him by 4 years then, and even in this birth he told her to calculate. "Tu mere kolo is janam vich bhi 4 saal vaddi hai. You're elder to me by 4 years even in this birth." Being a student of psychology, I was greatly fascinated by the subject of past life and life after death. Needless to say, he knew about my fascination. He came and sat next to me on the floor and looked me in the eye. I tried to be brave and looked into his, and what I saw in them sent shivers down my spine. His eyeballs started to rotate, and in them I saw something. But I was so scared, I quickly looked away. Guruji smiled and asked, "Do you know what transmigration of souls means?" I knew what it meant, but I couldn't find my tongue. Transmigration of souls is a belief among various cultures where it is believed that a soul never dies and keeps taking birth in a different body. He further asked, "Do you also know that a lot of souls from the West have taken birth in India at this moment?" On hearing this, my jaw dropped because since a few years I had been seeing flashes of my past lives, and in most of them I wasn't an Indian. All that I saw about my past lives was later confirmed by Guruji. I could only but stare at him in amazement. How did he know? Seeing me badly shaken up, he turned to my mother and said, "Aj मैं तेरी बेटी नू शिवजी दे थोड़े दर्शन करवाते." Today I have given your daughter a bit of Shivji's darshan. It is then that I realized that the image that was taking shape in his eyeballs was probably that of Shivji. "Bring betel leaves worth rupees 100. I shall do Sukhmani's operation tomorrow," Guruji told my mother, before giving us leave for the day. I had heard that Guruji cured people by placing betel leaves over the affected area. I had also seen a spoon next to his asan chair, which he used to carry into the room known as the OPD room. "This is scary business," I told my mother, that there was no way I'm going to let anyone take me to that OPD and do some kind of an unconventional operation. The next day, I very hesitatingly went back to him, and the first thing he asked my mother was about the betel leaves. All day, I tried to get a glimpse of the room everyone called the OPD. The door always remained shut, and my imagination ran wild. Does he actually cut open people inside that room? What does he do with the spoon? Scoop things out? The thought was enough to make me panic and sweat. All this while, Guruji was reading my thoughts and having a laugh at my expense. He gave me a smile and finally asked my mother to hand him the betel leaves. He held them and said some prayer and handed them back to her, saying, "Put these on Sukhmani's stomach for an hour when you go home, and after an hour, dispose them in flowing water or bury them in a clean area." I took a breath of relief. We went back home and did as we were told, and I instantly felt an improvement in my health. "Apni beti mainu de de. Give your daughter to me," Guruji told my mother one day. I was shocked to hear this, and I actually thought my mother may just give me away to him. I imagined cleaning, sweeping, mopping, and cooking in his temple for the rest of my life. At that time, the very thought seemed depressing. "Guruji, मेरी दोनों बेटियां मैं आपको देती हूँ." "Guruji, both my daughters I give to you," said my mother. I looked at Guruji, hoping he didn't mean what I was thinking. He laughed at my foolish thoughts and said, "दोनों मेरियां खास बेटियां हन. They are both my special daughters." My family and friends thought I was a Nastik, atheist, and I never bothered to correct them, nor did it hurt me to be called so. One morning, as I walked into his room, he said, "Lo aa gayi Nastik. Here comes the atheist." For the first time, it hurt me to hear that from him, but I kept quiet. He gave me one long look and then said, "नहीं, नास्तिक नहीं है, रब नाल नाराज़ है. तैनू लगदा है रब दूसरे लोकां दा है, तेरा नहीं." "No, not an atheist. You're angry with God. You feel that God does for everyone else but not for you." Due to some incidences in my life, this is exactly how I had started to feel, and it gave me some solace to know that Guruji was aware of the facts. मैं हर जन्म विच तेरा गुरु सीगा, तैनू की लग्या मैं तैनू इस जन्म च छड्ड देआंगा? "I have been your guru in each of your past lives," said Guruji in a very loving tone. "What makes you think I would let you go this time?" "Come and press my feet." I quickly got up and started pressing his feet. In the few days that I had seen him, one thing was certain. Not everyone could touch Guruji, and if he asked someone to press his feet, it was considered a great honor. I realized that the more I pressed, stronger was the fragrance coming from his feet. "मेरे दोनों पैरां ते पदम है." "I have padams in both my feet," said Guruji. At that time, I had no idea what a padam was, and neither did I understand the importance of what he had just told me. My mother, who was asked to press Guruji's hands, noticed that his hands were turning blue. She immediately pointed it out, thinking maybe something was wrong with him. "Guruji, why are your hands turning blue?" Mom asked, sounding concerned. "Asi Shiv." "I am Shiv," was all he said, and smiled. Guruji lovingly called my mother Sukhi Auntie. One day he called her and said, "Sukhi Auntie, तू रोज 2 बजे सवेरे उठ के गुरु नानक नू अरदास करदी है कि नीचे आओ ते मेरी बेटियां दी शादी करो. You get up at 2 a.m. every morning and pray to Guru Nanak, asking him to come down and get your daughters married." "Yes, Guruji," was all my mother could say. She was amazed to see how he mentioned her ardas exactly word to word as she had been saying it for the past many years. Guruji smiled and said, "तू रब नू बुलाया करदी सी, ले मैं हुण आ गया हां. You asked God to come down to help you, and now I'm here." We were all so dazed that we didn't understand and registered the depth of what he was saying. He took us all into his room and made us eat lunch with him. I noticed that he hardly ate much and distributed most of his food among us. "हर किसी नू महापुरुषां दा महाप्रसाद नसीब नहीं हुंदा. खाओ ते देखो सारी बीमारियां दूर हो जाएंगी." Not everyone is lucky to get Mahaprasad from a Mahapurush. Eat and your ailments will disappear, said Guruji. And we all ate like it was our last meal. In these 15 days, Guruji gave us a lot of his time and very patiently answered all our questions. Every day the Sangat was given food first and Guruji ate after feeding everyone. This was the first place where I saw that 4-5 people ate from one plate without hesitation. Eating with spoons was highly discouraged by Guruji, and this was a major problem for someone like me who didn't know how to eat with my hands. Each time I tried to sneak into the kitchen, he would catch me and send me back saying, "No spoons." Many times I was left with a lot of curry and no chapatis to eat with. There were days when I had to use paper to scoop my curry. I also noticed that I was the only one who was given a green chili every day by Guruji. Each time I sat down to eat, he would come and give me a green chili or a chili pickle. I was never fond of eating chilies, and this seemed very strange to me. Many years later, When Guruji was in Delhi, he said, I see you don't have the kind of a temper you had when you first met me. I agreed and laughingly said, Guruji, even I am surprised that I don't get angry very often now. Guruji laughed loudly and said, Mircha khila khila ke tera main gussa katya hai. It's thanks to all the chilies I have fed you. These few days with Guruji were like heaven. He had embraced all of us and taken us under his wing. He was what my mother was searching for all these years. His love was what I was looking for all my life. You all have been given admission, said Guruji. What does that mean? I asked foolishly. Guruji replied, I have accepted you all as my disciples. I was obviously very happy to hear this, but I had to ask him another foolish question. Guruji, doesn't everyone become your disciple once they come to you? No, he said. नहीं, हर कोई मेरा चेला नहीं बन सकता। हले ਤਾਂ ਕਈ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਐਡਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਫਾਰਮ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਮਿਲੇ। ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਐਡਮਿਸ਼ਨ ਤਾਂ ਮਿਲ ਗਏ, ਪਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਾਰੀ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਕਲਾਸਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋ। ਕੌਣ ਕਿਸ ਕਲਾਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ, ਉਹ ਮਹਾਪੁਰਸ਼ ਦਾ ਸੀਕ੍ਰੇਟ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਅਸੀਂ ਨਹੀਂ ਬਤਾ ਸਕਦੇ। Not everybody who comes to me can become my disciple. Some people haven't yet been given admission forms, he continued. Even though you've got admission, you're all in different classes, and that is a secret that saints don't reveal. Although I treat everyone equally, but my blessings are according to your individual levels. हर कोई मेरे दरवाजे तो मेरे हुक्म दे बगैर अंदर आ भी नहीं सकता. No one can enter through my door without my permission. We all felt so lucky to have found him, and we all fell at his feet in gratitude. Guruji was soft and kind, yet at times no one could be as stern as him. Ego was something he never tolerated and often told people to leave theirs behind before coming to him. He was someone who could break you into a million pieces and rebuild a more beautiful new you. All he ever wanted from his disciple was unconditional love and surrender, and whoever gave him these, their every little need and desires were looked after. This is where my journey with my Guru started, or should I say, this was the point in time from where I resumed my journey with my Guru in this lifetime. I want to add here that many years later, my doubt about birth charts being changed was also cleared by Guruji. I felt that since the time and place of birth cannot be changed, how can the calculations be any different just because he said so? In 2008, I had given my date of birth to a friend in London who insisted on consulting his own spiritual guru who was visiting him in London in the coming week. He knew I was following Guruji, but he just wouldn't take no for an answer, and to humor him, I gave him my details. The next week, I waited impatiently for him to contact me, and I realized that he had completely disappeared from my social media, blocked me from every possible contact. I was very confused about his behavior and finally forgot all about it till in around 2012 he suddenly contacted me again. Sukhmani, please don't be mad at me for disappearing from your life for all these years. I had your birth chart read by my guru and I didn't want to convey to you all that he said. I thought it best to just not tell you and disappear. So why are you contacting me now? I asked. Because my guru said that most probably she will not live through the hard times till 2012, but in case she does, then she will be in her power and her stars will be very strong. He kept asking me if I had gone through a certain experience, and I would reply in the negative. He would ask me if my mother went through certain issues, and I would say no. Finally, after replying in the negative to all his questions, he said, Sukhmani, with folded hands, I want to tell you that please continue to follow your Guruji. He has obviously changed your destiny. I laughed and replied, Yes, I already know that now. None of the bad experiences written in my birth chart ever occurred, and he kept me safe and happy through the worst period of my life. जय गुरुजी। आज की रीडिंग बस यहीं तक। कल फिर अगले चैप्टर से शुरू करेंगे। उम्मीद करती हूँ आप सबको बहुत अच्छा लगा। सुखमनी आंटी का भी फिर से शुक्राना अपनी इतने ब्यूटीफुल एक्सपीरियंसेस को हमारे साथ शेयर करने के लिए। जय गुरुजी।